welcome back. Let's talk, sit, relax, come in, join our conversation because today I'm gonna tell you my aviation story. It started with absolute fear and now it ended in absolute love. But there is an event that actually changed my perception and made me become an absolute aviation lover. So stick around. Since I was a very little girl, I've always had this huge fear of planes and everything aviation. I didn't want to go near them. I didn't want to have anything to do with them. My parents love flying, and they always try to convince me going on holiday and going on a plane. My mom even tried by saying just going on a small trip from Lisbon to Oporto because it's a very, very short trip. Um, with no result whatsoever, I would refuse. I would say I would stay with my grandmother, I would stay with my cousin, whatever. There was no way I was gonna go on a trip and enter or board a plane because for me they were, as I used to call them, geringonças voadoras, which you will translate as flying edges. So it was quite obvious that it was not happening for me. But there was something that was conflicting with this very strong opinion, which was my love for Australia, and that actually was something that I have since I was 5. I was completely crazy about Australia. I would love and I would watch all documentaries about Australia, about the wildlife, about the places, everything, you name it. I always loved Australia. And also, I promised myself I would visit Australia one day if um, I obviously could afford it. But to visit Australia, obviously I had to conquer my fear. So that was the event that changed my mind. In 2003, I came home and I told my parents I was going to go to Australia. My parents laughed in my face and never believed that I was going to do it because they thought, nah, you won't do it. When they saw me with the ticket, my dad was actually upset because he thought it was a waste of money. I will never board the aircraft. I was not going to do it. I would refuse. I would try and I would just go back and go home. They went to the airport, still not believing. I went, I said bye bye, and they stayed there waiting for me to come back. But my mom convinced him to go back home, and 3 hours later, I was in Schiphol in the Netherlands. So obviously, I did it, and this was what changed my mind. I got in the plane. I back then I flew with KLM, which was an airline that I really loved flying. They're really nice. The crew is amazing, and my first words to the flight attendants was, "Well, this is my first flight. I'm a little bit nervous, so I'm afraid I'll need your help." And this was the beginning of a very good relationship because she just laughed at me and she just put me in a seat in front of her that I came to realize it was in the first class for that shorter plane. Obviously, it was an Airbus, and once we took off, I was extremely nervous. I was petrified. When the plane, when they started the engines, I was even more petrified. When we were taxiing, I was just thinking, oh my god, what have I done? But once we went to the runway and full speed ahead, and the fearful Katya was now the loving Katya. I was loving it. I remember saying to the flight attendant, "This is amazing," and she was laughing her head off. And this is the event that actually changed my mind completely. I started loving aircraft. I started studying about aircraft. I love them all. I must admit, my favorite aircraft is definitely my Queen of the Skies, my Boeing 747. I love that aircraft. I always did. I think the lines, everything about it is amazing. And I flew 747s quite a while, and several times because I was coming back and forth to Australia since I met my husband, and it was amazing, and it's an experience I will never forget. Since then, uh, well, I love everything aviation. I study everything aviation, and when I became a translator, um, out of a sudden, my first client was an airline. How lucky was I? Um, it was the continuation of this. Working with the airline just gave me the opportunity of actually being there, learning with the airline, and knowing how airline operates. And obviously, I was not there because the airline was in East Timor and I was in Australia, but I was translating press releases, I was translating letters, I was translating all these documents for that airline. And for me, it was amazing. It was an amazing job, it was an amazing experience. And also, it was the opportunity of learning everything about aviation and getting all the knowledge that I have today. It was very, very, very good. And today, one of my specializations obviously became aviation in tourism because I also worked with travel agencies, and I've been working in the tourism industry for basically all my career as well. So, this is my aviation story. What's yours? And that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed my aviation story. I hope you have one as well. Please share. Why not? Share your aviation story. Do you have a similar story to mine? Have you always loved aviation? Have you always loved planes? Did you grow up collecting little models of planes? I know a lot of people do. Unfortunately, I miss out on that because I was very fearful of them. So share with us, why not? Um, Thank you so very much. Subscribe the channel and get a notification of another talk every week. And share with your friends. And let's make these talks really big. Um, Once again, thank you so very much for watching. See you next week. Have a good one, and